Hi everybody, I'm Greg Fishel. Welcome to bonus weather video number 2 for this week, and this is going to be the least elaborate bonus weather video I have ever done because quite frankly, I've got to be somewhere in a very short amount of time from now, and I just don't have time to make up graphics, so I'm just going to talk about something here, and hopefully you'll find it of interest. But basically, yesterday, we've talked about this issue at the RDU airport about the temperature being inflated, and some of that is true. The positioning of the instrumentation prior to 1994, when the automated observing stations were put into place, it adhered to the official World Meteorological Organization standards, where it was 2 meters off the ground, it was over a grassy surface, and it was well ventilated with one of those, louvered shelters that I'm sure you've all seen. And once we went into the modern era, if you will, then the aviation industry took priority. And so the positioning of the instrumentation was much, much closer to the runway than it had been before. And so if you think about it, especially in the summertime when the sun heats up the runway and the wind blows from that direction toward the sensor, it's certainly going to have an effect. There have also been times when the grass has died around the actual observing site, and so now it's not over a grassy surface anymore. It's over a dirt surface or stones or rocks or whatever. And so, all of these things come into play in terms of what the instrumentation shows. Now, from every indication that I have gotten, the 85 at RDU yesterday was very representative of reality. I've talked to some people that have some very, very what would you call it? Very high quality instrumentation, and they were getting the same reading that the airport was. And so as far as yesterday goes, I really can't argue with it too much. And I also checked out the temperatures at the National Weather Service site, which is on Centennial Campus at NC State, and it has been running over the last 2 weeks plus a couple of days 2.2 degrees cooler during the day than the RDU airport has. However, I checked with the National Weather Service office to see where that instrumentation is located, and it's on the roof of a 3-story building. And so during the daytime hours, that's probably going to lead to it being a little bit cooler. At night, it could actually lead to it being a little bit warmer. So it's very possible to make the argument that neither one of these locations adhere to the official WMO standards that we're supposed to follow. And so there may be a little bit of a warm bias at RDU on some days and a cold bias at the National Weather Service office at Centennial Campus. But there are some days when the RDU airport temperature is indeed very, very accurate. And it appears from all indications that the 85 yesterday was indeed representative of where everybody lived. Now, back in I think it was the early 2000s that Steve Harned was the meteorologist in charge of the National Weather Service office, and this was the summer that RDU hit 100 or higher 12 times, and me and a number of other television meteorologists were raising a ruckus because we just didn't believe it. And so Steve really went to a lot of trouble on this. He set up sensors all around the airport to measure temperature at all these different locations. And the end of the study, he concluded that the instrumentation was accurately representing a microclimate, a very, very localized climate, that was not necessarily representative of where most people lived. And that today is the best explanation that I have ever heard about why there is this inflation of the temperature at RDU on certain days. Not all days, but on certain days. And so it could very well be that, yes, there is a microclimate out there. And think about the airport. It has grown enormously over the last 30 or 40 years. There's a lot more tarmac. There's more buildings. And all of those things absorb heat. And so we have modified the environment, thus leading to warmer temperatures, okay? And this is why I'm careful to point out that while climate change, I believe, is partially responsible for the general increase in temperature at RDU, it is not the only reason, because we have modified the environment independent of any gas in the atmosphere, okay, simply by changing the land surface. And so as a result, some of the warming is due to that as well. And as many of you know, I am an acceptor of the idea that that we are warming the environment through putting greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. But I think when you assume that every unusual weather event and you immediately attribute it to climate change, to me, that destroys the credibility of otherwise very, very solid science. And so I try very, very hard not to do that. There's always been weird weather. Okay, you look back through people's diaries in the 1700s, and there's always been weird weather. So there's natural variability that occurs in the atmosphere all by itself. Okay, and so what we have to do is to try to separate out that variability and then see what we have left. And when we do that, all around the world, not just at RDU, we do see a steady increase in the global temperature. There's not any question about that. Now, maybe people can argue about what's causing that, okay? The best credible argument I have heard, okay, is the fact that, yes, there have been times where the atmosphere, the global atmospheric temperature has been higher than it is now. That's true. There have been times in the past when there's been more CO2 in the air than there is now. That is also true, okay? So this is not the warmest it's ever been, and it's not the most, we don't have the greatest concentration of CO2 that we've ever had, okay? The one thing that makes this different is the fact that the changes that we are observing are occurring on a much, much shorter time scale than anything that we have either been able to measure or estimate since almost the beginning of time. And obviously before the 1850s, we have to use other techniques like ice cores and tree rings and that type of thing. But they're very, very good indicators of how the climate changed. That's the one unique feature here, is that we have never seen, at least as far as we can tell, these changes occurring at the rate they're occurring over the short time span that they're occurring. And that is really the only thing that makes this unique over the past history. Yeah, we've had ups and downs, and we've had times that have been hotter than now, and we've had times with more CO2 than now. All that is true, okay? But again, the main thing that's really sort of rises to the top here is the fact that these changes are occurring very, very quickly. And is there a point at which the changes cannot be reversed no matter what we do? That's really the big question right now. All right, so when I approach the idea of climate change, I do it scientifically, okay? I don't have a political agenda. I think it's absolutely ridiculous that this issue has become so politically divisive, okay? We need to get back to the point where we can have respectful conversations with people of differing opinions, okay? And try to reason things out, okay? But this whole business of us versus them, not only with this issue, but just about every issue in existence right now around the country, it's stupid. It's just flat out stupid, all right? All right, that's bonus weather video number 2 for this week. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and we will be back with you again on Monday with a daily weather update and a bonus weather video, the next one, with pictures on Tuesday. Y'all take care.